Hello, everyone. This is Devin, and welcome to another episode of an unexpected podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about what happened at Nova and the ranks, the list that we saw. And I'll be talking with my co-hosts, Matt, Rob, and Evan. So all usual podcast members here. And we're going to be going into kind of an overview of what we exactly saw as far as evil and good, sort of like, the how overwhelmingly evil the tournament seemed to be. The top
Spoilers.
10. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. We go over the top 10, and if we have time, we'll touch upon the new releases that just came out from GW, just quickly anyway. So, all right. Well, so basically, Matt wanted to, he had, well, actually, all of us noticed that the evil, well, might as well jump into it, that evil was overwhelming there. We don't have
List. We're going to do a list first.
Oh, we are going to do a list first. Actually, yeah. Actually, let's
are.
go into a list that's actually fitting for the tournament as well.
Yeah.
So, Matt, go ahead and pull up the list that we have.
All right. So,
Oh, and for anyone new to the podcast, every episode we actually do a list review. So if you go on the YouTube channel,
every episode but the last four.
but the last four, yeah. Whereas like Ardacon, most every episode we do a list review. So if you want your list reviewed, we actually do so from a competitive point of view. This is a competitive focused podcast. So this time we'll be going over a Assault on Lothlorien list. And this was submitted once again on the YouTube channel.
All right. And here it is. All right. So you guys got a list up on the screen there? All right. Yep. So this is from Timmy T9204, who I think we've reviewed a list from before, because I remember this guy's the odd Terminator variant from far in the future.
I was gonna say Timmy T9000 is definitely a Terminator.
Yeah. And Timmy T9204 is definitely an odd subvariant of the Terminator from the future. But all right, so this is a list for Timmy. He's watched our episode on Assault on Lothlorien. And if you recall, in our episode where we talked about Assault on Lothlorien, we talked about there being a number of different ways that you could construct this list, and then our kind of suppositions of how it could be done. This is one of the versions that we talked about is we just kind of like spam out goblins and orcs and see how that comes out. And this is his take on that particular version. I'm going to caveat this by saying that since we did that episode, we've now played against this list. I've played against this list a lot, and seeing how different variants of this list fare. And I'll talk. We'll talk through some of those. Probably we'll talk through some of those when we're going through the episode, because Assault on Lothlorien has a lot to do with how the meta is evolving and how we're discussing it. But I'll talk through a bit of this, and then we can kind of throw it out to the floor. So this list to begin with has Musgar. You have to have Musgar. He has 4 orcs with spear, 1 orc with spear, shield, and banner. So those are your, you have your fight 3 spearmen to stand behind guys, and you have your banner. That's what you get out of Musgar. You have Drizag, and with him are 3 prowlers, 4 goblins with spear, 3 goblins with spear and bow. You have a wild warg chieftain with 2 wild wargs and a bat swarm. And I assume the reason the wild warg chieftain is there is to be kind of your hero killer and give Drizag a point in this list. Because Drizag really doesn't have a point in this list if you don't have something for him to enrage. And the wild warg chieftain, the wild wargs, and even the bat swarm are all things he can enrage and go out and kill stuff. And the wild warg chieftain, if you enrage him, can do a lot of damage, although you'll probably burn through him with 2 or 3 applications of enrage. Then he's got a goblin captain, 2 goblin prowlers, 5 goblins with spear, 5 goblins with bow, another goblin captain with the exact same loadout, so 12 guys, 2 prowlers, 5 with spear, 5 with bow, a goblin shaman who's got two prowlers, and then 4 with spear, 4 with bow, and another goblin shaman, same loadout, 2 goblin prowlers, 4 goblins with spear, and 4 goblins with bow. So this is an 800-point list. It comes out at 68 models, 12 might, 21 bows, and 11 throwing weapons. So I guess my thoughts, yeah. So first, I'm going to give 2 sets of thoughts here. The first set of thoughts is if we are going to stay with this is all about goblins and spamming them out. I think throwing the Wild Warg Chieftain in there, I get where you're going here, having Drizag and the Wild Warg Chieftain in there as basically this is a hero killer. And I've got one hero killer, one guy you really have to be afraid of me enraging and killing, and everything else is just spam. I think, by the way, I guess one thing is you can optimize your spam, I think, a little bit better. You've got 68 models here, so you should be able to get, I think, 23 bows out of it. You've got 21. You could probably get a couple more bows in there. You could probably get some more throwing weapons in there if you sacrificed a figure or two. I wonder about the Warg Chieftain's utility in this type of list, because if you were to drop the Warg Chieftain, you could also probably drop Drizag and then just kind of put more bodies in this. And I wonder if that's an option, just to kind of max out body, because you could get your body count really high in this, and then just use some of the extra points to turn guys into prowlers, and maybe even get up to like 1/3. You could probably get this up well into 80 models, of which 1/3 could be prowlers, 1/3 goblins with bow, and then 1/3 goblin with spear. Or if you really wanted to max this out, you could actually probably go like 2/3 goblin prowlers if you get your hands on enough models, and 1/3 spirit bow goblins, and that would be a pretty frightening list. The other thing is, if you were going to move off of the, hey, all I want is a lot of goblins here, which I think, by the way, is the way to go, I will tell you this, after having fought this list, I think on 4 occasions over the last month, Ashrak is really the guy. You definitely want Drizag because you want to enrage stuff, but Ashrak is really kind of the third essential component. Musgar, who you have to have, Drizag, who enrages stuff, and Ashrak, who turns stuff invisible. So and in particular spiders, who can then run through the lines and attack stuff from behind and trap stuff. And it's that ability to kind of run through the lines, with enraged spiders, that really can cause some damage, because what it forces your opponent to do is it forces your opponent to deploy in a ball instead of a line, and that's what gives you the ability to kind of spread out, surround them, and get the 2 goblins on one guy, which gives you the access to the +1 to wound special rule, which is where you actually kill stuff. So I get where you're coming from with this concept. I think the better concept, after some experience playing against this list, may be to add Ashrak in there, add a few spiders, maybe sacrifice your numbers a little bit to get those 2 in there, and go from there. You probably also, if you're going to do that, you don't need the second captain. You certainly don't need the second shaman. So you can get rid of those guys to get some points back out of that and keep your numbers up fairly high. You can still be in the 60s models with a whole bunch of guys, Ashrak, and some spiders. I think that's probably the way to go. If you're going to go all goblins, though, or at least all goblins with a handful of orcs, I think you probably want a version that takes this up into the 80+ models range. Those are my thoughts. Others?
Yeah, I pretty much, as far as Drizag, my initial thought was 90 points is a lot to pay for only an interaction with 4 other models on the list that, two of them arguably probably, the two wargs won't even really use it except for in like a Hail Mary sort of situation. I actually think keeping the wargs in the list, I mean, well, if you're not going to have spiders or whatnot, it's perfectly fine in the sense of like Reconnoiter and other fast moving scenarios. Plus, they count as infantry, so it's helpful for where they have to pick up objects or dig. So I'm all right with keeping them in, but I'm all in favor of what Matt said about removing the Wildboard Chieftain and even Druzhag. If you're not going to go that direction of having spiders or more in the list, then you're paying a lot for the privilege to do very little. So yeah, I mean, ultimately you can get your numbers up just like Matt said. So I can't really add on to that. But so what I can say is, as a caveat, I'm actually looking, and this is kind of a spoiler, at Samir's list, who was number 6 at Nova, I think, and his list actually mirrors this guy's quite pretty accurately, except Samir had another bat swarm, and he had Warg Marauders, and he also did have 3 giant spiders. He didn't seem to have wargs at all, so I guess all of that stuff sort of filled in that role, and he did all right with it. So I mean, the list clearly is functional, though I don't know if Samir regretted his choice of bringing Druzhag with so few options to enrage. But
I will say this because I played against Samir and we discussed his list afterwards, and I think after that at least after the discussion after our game, he was leaning towards throwing in Ashrak, decreasing the Ward Marauders down to 1, and throwing some more.
Okay, so he's definitely focusing more goblin heavy. So
yeah,
like he's going that route. Oh well, I guess Ashrak for the spiders turn them invisible, like you said.
Yeah.
So okay, no, all right. Well then, yeah. I mean, obviously, rankings at Nova sometimes are, it's more dependent on the player. So, and Samir's a good player, so he probably was able to pull this off anyway. But yeah, I think just simply that's my commentary, is that Druzhag doesn't have a lot to do in this list, and you're paying a premium for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, after what all of us have experienced at the recent tournaments, is that I think the spam list is just like, I guess, a waste of the Legion in some ways, because this Legion gives you so many options and so many tricky things. Like even the Warg Marauders, which seem like at first glance a weak link because you can't enrage them or do anything. Having one in there just to cheese and reconnoiter or cheese and objective scenarios where you drop like 3 guys on one objective is incredibly useful. And the shamans really,
on their bow shots, so that's
yeah, the shamans really make the list as well. And I think not taking Ashrak and some spiders just doesn't work. So I mean, honestly, I'd say that obviously taking Ashrak and spiders is the best way to go for this list. If you really want to sort of preserve the horde as much as possible, I think Druzhag and the Wild Warg Chieftain is a better option than dropping them and just taking more goblins, because then your list just becomes insanely one-dimensional. And any big hero worth their salt that can take Musgar's Transfix Swarm will just walk through your list entirely. So I think the ability to have those extra options is useful. But other than that, similar things to what you guys have said, up your throwing weapon count. You should probably have like 15, 18 at least. Max your bow limit. If you want to take spears on the bows so you can fit more spears in to back up your prowlers. And you do not need 2 shamans in this list, I think.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Ashrak's not that expensive. I think he's only like 55 points. So you can drop like a captain, one of your captains of which you have 2, one of your shamans of which you have 2, and then like one of your goblins, and that'll give you Ashrak and then 1 spider, and then you can find some extra points somewhere to maybe get another spider or 2 in there. And by the way, I don't want to sell the Wild Warg Chieftain short. I don't want to talk you out of using him at 800 points. I think at below 800 points, I think he's probably one of the guys that has to go. But at 800 points, you can fit him in, and he does give you some options in certain scenarios. I mean, Reconnoiter, he can, he and his warg buddies can run for the edge, and he can call heroic moves and heroic combats with his warg buddies to get there. On the other hand, too, in Seize the Prize, he's probably your best option. If you can get priority, and he can call, I believe he calls a heroic he can call a heroic march.
Mm-hmm.
And get him and his warg buddies kind of up there in the center. He can have his 2 wild warg buddies out front with shields, and he can be pawing up the prize behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, everything everyone has said. I actually really like the Wild Warg Chieftain, especially with the Bat Swarm and being able to be enraged, because it's just such a threat that it doesn't matter what your opponent has on the table, they have to take it seriously. But I agree. I feel like without Ashrak and some spiders, this list isn't using all of its potential. I'd also love to see a second Bat Swarm, probably one of the best, most annoying units in the game. You can enrage it. It can fly off if you need to in certain scenarios. It can just be a nuisance on objectives. It can get behind the line without having to be invisible. So getting another Bat Swarm in there, I think, would also be nice, because it's kind of like, 1, you can deal with, but 2, become a real problem. But now we're also kind of getting into the whole, there's a million ways to build this list, right? So I don't want to go too far outside of what clearly is the purpose of this one, which is to swarm out the goblins. But I have to agree with I think Evan who said it, where I just don't think that's the optimal way to play this list after everything that we've kind of experienced.
So yeah, I mean, I think, because I've been thinking about, if I were to run this list, what would be in there, and having played against a whole bunch of variants of this list, some with Ashrak, some without. I don't think I played against a Wild Warg Chieftain variant of this, but they're the must-haves in this list. I think the must-haves are Musgar, Druzhag, the Ashrak.
Druzhag is a must-have.
He is a must-have.
I think he's a must-have too. I think you take all the named characters.
Musgar, Druzhag, Ashrak, and a Shaman, I think, are the must-haves. And then somewhere around at least like 55 figures. Between 50 and 60 figures are all must-haves, with at least 1 bat, and then 3 spiders. And then there's kind of the nice-to-haves, which are all things that you want, but you can't afford all of them. And the nice-to-haves include the Wild Warg Chieftain, more spiders, a second Bat Swarm, a captain, and that's and then probably like a Wild Warg contingent.
So you don't value March as highly as all the other shamans,
I do, but this list can win without it.
Okay.
So I mean, when I say these are nice to haves, these are all things you can get. Oh, and by the way, and another nice to have, and probably an important one to talk about, is above 60 models. And when I say these are nice to have, it's great to have all of these things. All of these things are things that will help the list win, but you can't afford all of them. You got to pick like 2 or 3 of these nice to have things. So you can get 60. You can get over 60 models, the Wild Warg Chieftain, and a captain. But if you do that, you're not going to get the extra spiders, the extra bats. Or you can get, extra spiders, extra bats, and a captain. But if you do that, you're not going to get the Wild Warg Chieftain, and you're not going to get, 70 models out of the list either. So you got to kind of choose which of the nice to haves you want to go with those must haves of Musgar, Druzhag, Ashrak, and then 50 something figures, and then a bare minimum of Bat Swarm and 2 or 3 spiders. So
does anyone feel any type of way about the leader only having 5 models for like purposes of Maelstrom? Oh, well, I guess you deploy him first, and then everyone else drop it.
Yeah, you deploy. You have so
Yeah.
many warbands in this
Yeah.
list that he's
Yeah.
going to have somebody with him.
Also, a deceptive thing about this list is that it actually does have way more might points than you think it does, because it just doesn't spend its might points for anything else other than heroics and just random things, because it's shamans reroll their cast rolls, so all they're spending their might points on for casting is channels, and then they're not really calling any heroic combats or anything like that. So it just has these massive pools of might it can call on to either might up those maelstrom rolls or call heroic moves. So I don't think it really has a big problem with maelstrom.
Yeah. The other thing to think about if you get Ashrak is making Ashrak the leader, as opposed to Musgar. I mean, Musgar has heroic defense, but in his role, he's generally going to be a little closer to the front line, because that's kind of where his spells work. Whereas Ashrak, in the scenarios where you don't actively have to kill people with your leader, so I guess everything other than the champion scenario, Ashrak can just hide, and he can run out, cast his spell on a spider that's nearby, and then run back into cover, and the spider can run off and do its thing. Whereas Musgar can, kind of be up giving spear support from the second rank and stuff like that. And if he goes down, he goes down.
Yeah, I actually always forget that Musgar isn't like required to be the leader in this legion. He's just required to be taken.
He's required to be there.
Right. But it's Musgar is also for your opponent in many cases the most threatening of the casters, because he has Wither and Transfix, and so they want to go after him anyway. So making the leader a different model really gives them a dilemma. So I agree with that.
Yeah. The other thing is Ashrak has that weird ability to paralyze people who wound him. So, there's always that risk in contests of champions that, Bulg's going to go into him, like do a wound and immediately paralyze himself.
Well, that's the beautiful part about him, is that they don't send Bold to go kill him. They
well,
send
there
him
is that,
much weaker, and then therefore you have a chance to take him down. They won't send.
But remember, in contests of champions, you get points if Bold kills him.
Well, for that one scenario, sure.
Yeah.
But in other
for all the other scenarios, you just hide Ashrak in a box and just have him stick his head out and occasionally turn a spider invisible and then hide back in his box.
I just mean like the opponent won't send their best to go after.
Oh yeah,
which is always nice. Like, I mean, having the Witch King mounted on a fell beast with a crown, like, are you going to take that chance? Like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I had one of the players at Nova come up to me and be like, "It finally happened. Ashrak paralyzed someone when he got wounded. It feels so good."
Yep.
I guess for that example, theoretically, you could hurl Ashrak, but whatever. You guys get the point.
On that example, you black dart him and stuff, right? But still,
right?
Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess that goes for the list review. And you guys may not know it yet, but we just reviewed 7 lists at Nova as well. So
yeah, that's right.
So, and 3 within the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so let's talk Nova and wither the meta.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we actually had Jay Clare, rules writer for the Middle Earth team, come to Nova, and he actually was shocked to see that our meta is very overwhelmingly evil. And I can't say that that's always been the case. Not this overwhelmingly. So put it in perspective here, out of 82 players that showed up in Nova, 55 of them are evil and 27 of them are good. So it's pretty much 2/3 of the tournament was evil, despite, if you kind of look at the way the game is sort of designed, good armies actually outnumber the evil armies as far as numbers, like how many available options you have. And so Jay was shocked by that, because he said over in the UK, and as our Ardacon participants here on the channel also saw, it's a lot more 50-50. So Matt, did you have any commentary of that in general, why you think that might be the case? I have some theories, but I figure I'll just keep passing it off here.
So look, I mean, my suspicion is that the reason you're seeing a lot of evil armies, at least here, and I suspect you're going to see them more in the UK, is that they're better. I mean, especially with the new, legendary legions. I mean, so Evan and I were over at Ardacon, and we played like 16 games over there, and then we came back to Nova and played 8 games here. I can't remember the exact breakdown of good to evil. I know I played a majority of evil armies over in the UK, even with the more good facing meta. And I mean, the lists that I played generally fell into 3 categories, right? There were the new, category 1 was the new evil legendary legions out of Defense of the North. Didn't play against a single. Well, I don't think I saw a single good legendary legion out of Defense of the North. I saw and played
well,
against
Beornings, but they
oh
kind of
yeah,
don't.
Beornings, right? Yeah, fair enough, Beornings. But I saw a ton of Legion of the Dragon Emperors. I saw a ton of assault on Lothlorien. I mean, I think something like a quarter of my games were against assault on Lothlorien over the course of August going into Labor Day at Nova. So that's category 1. Category 2 is just other evil stuff, which would be, be it Corsairs or, Hunter Orcs, Pits of Dol Guldur type stuff, or things of that ilk. And then category 3, which is I think the minority, which was generally elves and their friends. And I have to say, in the order of difficulty that was also the reverse order of difficulty that I had beating them. It was, I always felt like I was running over the elves and their friends. The evil list would put up a good fight, but would go down. Or occasionally I'd have like a low point loss to one of them. And then the games that really stressed me out were the other Legendary Legion games. And obviously I was playing one of those evil Legendary Legions. I was playing the Legion of the Dragon Emperor at both tournaments. And obviously the mirror matches were, as you would expect a mirror match, about a 50-50. Not a 50-50 necessarily in results because it depends on who's driving them. But I felt like I was evenly matched against those, and I felt like I was like playing in the hole against Assault Lothlorien. And that was always a struggle to kind of pull out a win against them. Then that was just kind of my perceptions of what I was running into.
One of the things you touched on that actually I was thinking was the fact that the Defense of the North book just came out. It's the most recent book as far as like before these 2 major tournaments, Ardacon and Nova. And so I kind of see this almost as a phase, because I mean, what do we have? Like, I don't know. I said 7, but I didn't actually count how many Assault and Lothlorien lists there were. There was at least 7.
I think it was closer to 10. Actually,
it could have been
almost
almost
10.
It
was a lot, yeah.
And then we had a lot of Eastwing legions, and so these are the new toys. These are the new boogeymen that kind of are out there right now. And I think if we get another year away from this book, or even more so into a new book, I think you're going to start seeing a reduction of these armies. Because I think these evil legions are actually the best in the book. I mean, Beornings, maybe, I guess I've never played it. But
yeah, so I mean, I should comment on Beornings. I did play against a couple of them, not at Nova, but at Ardacon. Yeah. And Beornings are an almost entirely scenario dependent list. I think there are some scenarios where it's impossible to beat them. There are some scenarios where it's very easy to beat them, and you can probably figure out which ones are which, right? The ones where you have to kill the heroes, the ones where you have to kill the heroes, it's really hard to beat them because it's really hard to kill the bears. The ones where you just have to get objectives, it's really easy to beat them because you can kill everything but the bears and then stand on objectives. So I think that list, by the way, the Beornings list is something where I think that may be a bit of a phase. Although it will be interesting to see how they kind of work in with other lists to be allied and how that works out. But I don't know. I am not convinced that the other 2, and in particular Assault on Lothlorien, is going to be a phase, because it, as I kind of game through in my head, like which lists be, the rock, paper, scissors aspect of this, it's not clear to me what the natural enemy of the Assault on Lothlorien list is.
Yeah,
There
it's
there
like
there are a number of lists that Assault on Lothlorien is the natural enemy of, but it's not clear to me what its natural enemy is.
Chariots.
it's like Assault upon Lothlorien has 3 hands and they're going rock, paper, and scissors all at the same time. It's just everything you take
And in
Assault
the
upon
dark.
Lothlorien has an answer to. Um, literally in the dark, yes. Because you can't shoot them. Because if you try to do that, they're just going to outshoot you with their goblin bows because they can hit you from 18 inches away. You can only hit
Hashtag
them from
insult to
12
injury,
inches
right?
away.
Yep.
Yes, which is horrifying. And then when you obviously when you get into combat, they're going to take their 18 prowler throwing weapons and hit you and wound you on like 4s and just kill all of your guys. And then if you take big heroes, you're gonna get hit with an invisible angry spider and a bat and have them die. Or you're just gonna get transfixed by Musger and the shaman all game. Um, and then obviously you have to contend with the +1 to wound from the goblins and the spiders are great in combat as well. So there's no like intuitive army that you look at it and go, oh, I can take this army and beat Assault upon Lothlorien. It just feels like it has all of the tricks. Um, and yeah, just piggybacking on what Dad said, it seems like evil legendary legions are really where this game appears to be shifting to. Because we've got Assault upon Lothlorien, um, we've got the Dragon Emperor Legendary Legion. Those are 2 legions that have really proved, especially at higher points, to be extremely, extremely strong. Other than that, we also have Assault upon Helm's Deep, which is still around and kicking. Second place at Nova was Assault upon Helm's Deep. So despite that legion being a little bit older, it's still extremely strong. And a list that we did not see representation at Nova for, but I know is doing quite well in other countries, is the Riders Legendary Legion as well.
Yeah, we don't play it at all here in America. I don't even think Americans realize how deadly it actually can be.
So there was one at Nova, but it was a brand new player, and it was like their third game, and they did horribly with it, obviously, because it's such an intricate legion. But
I don't know. I'm less convinced that that Americans don't know how deadly it can be, as opposed to Americans just don't want to run that army. I mean, I'm fully aware of how deadly that list can be. I have no intention of running that army.
I think the people on this podcast are a little bit more in tuned to how deadly certain legions are. I mean, I don't know. I would wonder if I asked everyone in Nova and told them, hey, yeah, Black Riders is a regularly tournament winning list over there in like Germany, let's say. How many of them would really be shocked by that? I'd actually think quite a few. Like, I don't know. I'd like to test that one day. I'll actually ask.
I don't know. I mean, you have to be a certain type of human being to run that list. I am not that type of human being.
No, well, to be fair, yes, it is a list that basically wins by saying, "Hey, don't play. Put your
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm not particularly here to have fun. I don't care if you don't have fun. I'm just here to win."
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about this until this conversation, but at Ardacon, out of my 6 games, 4 of them were against evil, and all 4 were legendary legions.
Yeah,
and the other 2 are against a mirror match.
Oh, and I have to say, Evan and I were talking through this. Yeah. Assault on Lothlorien, I think, is going to eat the Black Riders' lunch. Because the Black Riders charge in and then gets hit with like 16 throwing weapons. With +1 to wound.
I think the scenario is huge in that matchup, right? Yeah. Because like if they can't get in, Black dart a leader to death and run away the rest of the game, they're screwed, right?
I think Evan's analysis of legendary legions still remains true of all of them. It's like either they're going to be really good because they're so hard focused at doing one thing very well, or handle things very well, or they're going to suck, and that's why they.
Well, I mean, so that's the problem with I think. Well, I mean, depends on your perspective. The problem with fighting the Assault on Lothlorien Legion is you can't outshoot it, you can't outfight it, and you can't outnumber it. And that
It's
doesn't
weird because
leave
that
you
that
with a lot of other
analysis
options.
that analysis fails on that legendary
On just
legion
that
because
one,
it, other than like not having a big hitty leader, which really isn't a problem for 17 out of the 18 scenarios, it doesn't really have any of those classic pronounced legendary legions weaknesses, which, usually I'd be celebrating, but like all of these aspects feel just like so dialed up, that it can outdo so many other lists, in so many of these different areas that it almost feels like, I'm regretting saying that now, because they have proved
they
me
listen
wrong.
to you.
This
You
is not
know,
the direction I wanted this to go.
Yeah. I mean,
So, yeah, go ahead.
to answer the bigger question though that you asked, I think of the American meta has always been evil heavy from, what I recall. And part of that is just because people here think evil stuff is cooler than good stuff, right? It's that simple. A lot of people you talk to, they just like the monsters, they like the Gribblies, and it's partially that. And I think also not having really good counters on the good side right now, the way you did when Lady of Light was available, is also a part of it, right?
I was going to
Because,
bring that up. Yeah.
right. So like ever since Lady of Light left the meta, as predictably we had talked about on this podcast, evil lists have been in ascendancy, and especially ones that use magic and or shooting, of which Assault on Lothlorien uses both, right? And so that was such a natural counter to so many of the evil skew lists that are now kind of running roughshod over typical standard good armies, which is why you see nothing but Glorfindel and elves with Lake Town hordes, or things like that. And so I do believe that probably, at least for the most recent tournaments that we've been to, has definitely had an impact.
Now, to be fair, Galadriel does absolutely suck against the Assault upon Helm's Deep, not Helm's Deep, Assault upon Lothlorien Legendary Legion, because they just move all of their goblins anyways and hit on 6s anyways. And also all of your magic is buffing magic. So you just make a spider go angry and then charge it into her. So I don't know how much she would be helpful against that sort of list.
So the
but
blinding light really does help, because it really is it really is it is difficult to understate how important the shooting into combat with +1 to wound is on this list, and the damage that it can do with that ability. And yeah, her ability to make those things only hit on a 6 helps.
Well,
and
that
the
and
throwing weapons as well.
I would
Yeah,
also say
but-
that, you're right that she's not as good into that list as she would be into others, but like Instill Fear is really good at pushing goblins out of your way if you need to, for
Well,
example,
if they
right?
don't have Fury up.
If they don't have Fury up.
Right.
And a 3 attack hero, with a high fight value with a rerollable 3 fate is also really useful against some of their tricks. So it wouldn't be like the home run that it is against some other lists, but it certainly wouldn't be completely dead either.
Unfortunately, this is a completely moot argument because
Totally moot.
no one's taking her anymore.
No one's taking her anymore.
Well, because nobody
yeah.
can take her anymore.
Yeah. You know what, though? I just to feel off of one thing Rob said is that, one, our meta has been historically evil, but one other reason I think this is a phase and it'll move away from that is, like, I would have expected Lady Lothlorien to increase the amount of, like, let's say Angmar that we saw. It actually has like no Angmar at Nova, and like classically winning lists like Corsairs. Like there were some Corsairs.
There were Corsair lists at Nova,
and they did really well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we saw that. I would have expected an increase in that, and we didn't. Instead, we saw a spamming of these new lists. I would say next year you don't see 10 Assault and Lothlorien legions. You'll see them. They will exist because they are powerful, obviously. But I don't think you're going to see that many Easterling legions, that many Assault and Lothlorien legions. I do think that's when I say it's a phase. I don't mean that they're not powerful. I just mean, like, I think the overwhelming amount of them that we saw is the result of the book just coming out. And that's what I would say. I would make that bet that you won't see. I would even say that I'd make a bet that you'd have half as many as you saw.
It's either going to be that, or we're going to get to Nova and everybody
It'll be
that's
double.
there will have Assault on Lothlorien, except for like the one new guy who didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, Devin, that there is an element of just like it's the new hotness. People have wanted to play Easterlings forever, and now they can, right? So there's definitely an element of that. But I think that all of the legions that we're talking about have the juice to stay in the meta for a long time.
And they certainly will. I think you'll see Assault on Lothlorien at every Nova, Ardacon, whatever, going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
I absolutely you're going to see that, unless they nerf it or whatever.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
So,
honestly, you can bring siege weapons in the game with this. If you make flaming ammunition, whatever target it hits, it just illuminates that area. So now you can shoot.
That would be good.
So
there would be a great rules change we'll never see.
That's another point, Devin. Though, is that one problem with Assault on Lothlorien is that it would have been really good anyway, but there were several FAQs that inexplicably made it better, right? So like the Cave Dweller ruling about how they can't be shot at +1, and then the invisibility ruling that changed the spiders to go anywhere. Like they got a lot of buffs in the FAQ instead of nerfs.
And Galadriel, Lady of Light, disappearing.
So like it actually was helped by the thing that usually nerfs armies.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So interesting question. I mean, I've put my brain to this, and I've said I can't really think of a natural enemy to Assault on Lothlorien. Prove me wrong. What's its natural enemy?
Assault on Lothlorien.
My assumption is
another bigger Assault on Lothlorien.
Yeah. I think Goblin Town would still probably be pretty good into it, just because they'll have so many numbers. But and they have a ring.
Yeah, but how do you have any idea how much shooting they're going to have to wade through? I mean,
those
they will
throwing
probably
weapons are going to evaporate Goblin Town. Like every time they hit, they're killing a goblin because they're wounding on 3s. Does Goblin Town have cave dwellers?
They do have cave dwellers.
Okay, so they're wounding on 4s, so it's not as bad. But still, like they have the tools to kill the Goblin King. Or not necessarily kill him, because obviously he's super beefy, but shut down the Goblin King. And then they've got Mass Fight 3, which is good against Goblin Town. And they've got all the movement and stuff like that. So I don't know if Goblin Town is a surefire.
The other thing they have is, they've also got, 60, 70, 80 models.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And when you got to remember they're thinning the ranks with bow fire and weapon fire on the way in, and it's not it's not an army that's vulnerable to the Goblin King Golem combination either, because there's like no big guy that goes down, or at least no big guy you're going to be able to get both of those folks into easily. It's instead it's going to be like a spider that suddenly gets enraged and, and is fighting on equal terms with that Goblin King.
But he still has his blubber save though, right? Having Gollum with the ring he can sneak behind the line and choke out a shaman, right? Like, I mean, I think they got some tools, but it's a reach, right? Because
I think if in the category of hard counter, probably not, but certainly I think they have a fighting chance.
I think they have a matchup that it's not an auto lose for them, depending on scenario.
Right? Yeah. No, certainly not.
I don't think the list literally has any hard counters. Yeah. Like, let's be real. Like, I think that's the whole point.
I think Assault on Lothlorien is a good counter to Goblin Town.
Honestly, I would wonder if like Mumak War Leaders would be an interesting counter into this, because the only thing. Obviously the Goblin Town neuters fight values and such, which Mummics don't traditionally care about. I don't know, hard counter, kind of hard to say, but you are starting to see Mummic.
Yeah, but like, wouldn't that war leader just get killed on turn 1?
Yeah, like because a lot of the stuff out moves the war leader, because it goes like 10, 12, and the war leader goes 8. And like one turn getting all of your nasties into the war leader, you just make the Mumak evaporate. And then
either that or you just literally shoot him out from the howdah, right?
Yeah, so shoot him out as well. That works too.
Yeah, although you only have 18 inches, so you have to get decent. I mean, the other problem Mumak War Leader has is that there's a lot of room to get a Badian on, or a spider that's got channeled Shroud of Shadows on it, and as soon as that happens, the Mumac's dead.
Well, and also the traditional weakness, depending on the terrain layout, if you've got all your goblin archers up on buildings, he's not getting to any of them, and they're just shooting him to death, right?
Yeah, that's true too.
Blinding light, illuminating an area. Does that remove the +1 to wound? Is it the target that's the who needs to be in illuminated light area, or is it the shooter?
No, it turns everything within 12 inches to daylight. So within 12 inches.
So, but I'm saying, like, if I'm being shot at and I'm in daylight,
you need to be able to see the model shooting.
Yeah.
Okay, so blinding light won't help you against.
A weird trick is throwing Gandalf. Like if you have Gandalf, like throwing him forward to illuminate the opponent, and then like keeping your guys out of blinding light range or weird stuff like that.
See, I mean, the other thing is that the blinding light, the 12-inch blinding light is generally enough to protect you from the throwing weapon +1s, which is the really scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The bow +1s are scary, but not as scary because they're only hitting on 5s or 6s.
So I thought that Lady of Light being wiped out would bring in the rise of Gandalf and Gandalf the White potentially, because we don't see him oddly enough, which I'd say he's still worth his points for what he brings into play. But who knows? Maybe the meta is showing that we're now going to have the Gatekeeper. He's the new meta. We start dropping him in for like 10
He
points.
is the new meta.
And, there had to be a reason, right?
It's just,
wow.
So hard to build around.
So. My guy, Harry Goatleaf, it's his moment.
I sure love spending.
The time has come.
What is it?
The era of Goatleaf is here.
Was this
you heard it here first, folks.
Was this all Jay's cunning plan to like make Harry Goatleaf relevant again?
Yeah, right. Because how much is he? Like 10 points? Like, I don't even
know. No, he's way more than that. He's like 20, 30, something like that.
Okay. I don't know how many alliances he breaks into convenience or impossible.
All of them. He is Wanderers in the Wild.
He's also a ruffian, but they're
do
with everyone, right?
Yeah, he's like, he can switch between them. I mean, I think that would be so funny though if you start seeing people bringing Harry Goatleaf.
I knew it was just a matter of time. All I had to do was wait.
Right now,
I can't wait for the Assault on Bree Legion starring Harry Goatleaf.
Harry Goatleaf is sitting over there with a big grin on his face, rubbing his hands together, going, "And you thought you didn't need me."
Yeah. And 1,000 clicks were heard around the world as everyone logs into Forge World immediately.
Yeah, that's right.
Suddenly Harry Goatleaf is sold out.
Yeah. That's right.
There's going to be a huge aftermarket of Barnabers and Build a Ponies in a second.
Yeah.
Well, to prevent this episode from being a Assault and Lothlorien podcast episode, I guess we'll move into just kind of an overview of the winning list. We won't dive into it deeply because what are we going over? Top 10, I think you said, right?
Yeah, so we could go over
for
the
those
top
who are
10 lists
interested.
Roughly.
Harry Goatleaf is in fact 40 points. So I am very happy that I will be spending 40 points to counter one list.
40 is a bit aggressive for one. If he was like 20, I might drop him in.
You hold your tongue.
Remind me what else he's got. What other stats does he have?
He can like freeze enemy foot models.
But they got to be charging
with a
him,
will
right?
point.
No, I think it's
just
just
look
like,
at him and freeze him.
I think he points the lantern at him and has to like roll a dice, right?
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, so he points the lantern.
I never
at the
really
Witch King
bothered
and
to
goes,
read
"Halt,"
his rules.
and the Witch King's like, "Oops, he caught me."
Yeah, literally.
So I guess
I think it can't be like a monster. I think it has to be a man-sized model, and you spend a will and roll a dice. It's been a while since I've brushed up on my Harry Goatleaf rules.
Unfortunately, it can't be a cavalry model, which means what you do is you take him with Legolas, and then you have Legolas shoot at the horse, and then you freeze the hero in place.
I love it. Well, that means a Wild War chieftain who is not cavalry can be frozen.
I do like the little bit of lore that he can't freeze cavalry models, considering that's what ended him.
Mm-hmm.
So. I'm fairly sure
what
the
ended
Wild
him
War
was a
chieftain
door,
isn't
but...
man size.
Yeah.
So
By the way,
true.
I
Does
do
it have to be man
say-
or just infantry?
Yeah.
I don't know because I do not have the book here.
That's a good point. Anyway, not a serious meta call. Let's move on.
Gandalf
What are you
is
talking about?
Probably Legolas is a better counter to Assault on Lothlorien than Harry Goatleaf is, because at least he can shoot into the dark. And
I mean, he'll be doing
I
it
don't
by
think he
himself.
can.
That's the Legion.
Well, he can't
Well-
see past 12 inches still. He'll still hit on a
Yeah.
2, but
yeah, he just needs to get up close, I guess.
So
What is his elf I see? They see nothing.
Nothing. Yep.
mhm.
I'm actually really shocked that elves can't see in the dark. But all right. Well, I guess going into, I guess we'll just go over quickly the top 10 sort of overview of the list. So, dude, first off, Rob, it sounded like you had them almost written down.
So I have the top 10 list in front of me, and I don't have them written down, but I do remember what they were. Now, obviously, I don't remember the exact composition. I just know what the list was generally. So if you want, what I can do is I can just go really quickly and say the top 10 lists were X. And then if you have like the actual specific lists in front of you, we can talk about some of them more generally, if that would be helpful.
That'll work.
So going, I'll just go 1 to 10 because it'll be easier to do. So the first place and the winning list was actually really cool. It was a half troll list led by Suladon and 2 Camel Kings with a bunch of half trolls. I think 3 Camel Kings.
3 Camel Kings.
Yeah,
That was
which
epic,
was,
by the way.
that was so cool. I'm super happy about that. The second place list was an assault on Helm's Deep with double ballista and a bomb. Third place list was assault on Lothlorien. Had a lot of spiders in it, but pretty much everything that you would expect otherwise. The fourth place list was actually Matt. Good job, Matt, with his Easterling Legion. Fifth place list was another assault on Lothlorien. It was the one that you briefly touched on earlier, Samir's list. The sixth place list and the highest placing good was kind of like a soup. It had Galadriel, Gildor, Aristor, Boromir of Gondor, and like a mix of elves. I think that's exact. Maybe
You're talking about
Keaton.
Dubois' list?
Yeah, Alex.
yeah,
So yeah,
Galadriel-
props to Alex Dubois, who's in our gaming group. So
Yeah,
again,
Yeah,
Yeah.
big props. Cool list.
Galadriel, Aristor, Gildor, Boromir with 36 models, all consistent of elves. And the Boromir is the
Yeah.
Fellowship Boromir.
So a bunch of an elf soup plus Boromir, basically.
Yeah.
The seventh place list was a Moria list with the Watcher in the Water. Eighth place list was a Corsair list, pretty standard, lots of crossbows, lots of bodies. Ninth place was a pure Gondor that had Boromir, Faramir, Hurin, and a bolt thrower. So that's kind of an interesting one to make. And the 10th place list was another assault on Lothlorien. And actually, Austin's part of my local gaming group, and we kind of workshopped that one together. So so I'm glad to see that he did well with it. So and that
were
one
there-
had that one did have a Wild Warg chieftain in it and also a captain on Warg. But we can talk about the differences between the various assault on Lothloriens if we want to. So that's your overview of the top 10. As you can see, only 2 good lists made it in. So it was much like the tournament, overwhelmingly dominated by evil, 3 of which were the assault on Lothlorien. Another, at least one of which was goblin based. And then some of the usual offenders, Easterlings, assault on Helm's Deep, etc. And outside of kind of the outlier, which was the 9th placed Gondor list that did really well, elves basically were your good list that were doing the best at the tournament. So that's your overview. If there are any particular lists we want to go over, that's over to you, Devin.
Well, actually, I mean, overall, I think they're pretty self-explanatory about what won. I would say with the Gondor one, where you saw Faramir, Boromir, Hurin, and a bolt thrower, before everyone goes out and starts grabbing bolt throwers, just be aware that the player who played that list is a regularly tournament-winning player over in Canada, Benedict Beklinski. So,
and he also has been playing some version of that list for literally years, because I
Yeah,
played him
exactly.
at the last Nova with pretty much the exact same list as well. So he knows it very well.
yeah, exactly. You give him any list and he's going to be pretty tough to beat. So he's, that just a little bit of an outlier. I think the list itself is less to do with the work, but I am interested in the fact that he brought a bolt thrower and I'm like, okay, I guess, maybe it is useful.
I mean, the bolt thrower in his list, from what I remember, is I mean, when that thing goes off, it really goes off. But other than that, it's more of a distraction card effects, right?
Yeah.
The real meat and potatoes of the list is that you've got 3 mounted heroes, all with +1 to wound, that just charge in and heroic combat through your line in like 1 turn, right? And they all, you know, do Gondor mounted hero things. And then he doesn't have any elites. I think it's all just warriors and rangers, maybe a couple of Scaleth veterans. And so once the heroes break the line effectively and kind of even out any numerical disparity, he just has a lot of B6 and a lot of bows from his rangers that kind of control the battlefield. But it's really based around the 3 heroes. The last time I played it, he had Aragorn instead of Boromir. But functionally it's the same thing, right? Where his Boromir has a lance and 6 might versus
Wait, did you say his Boromir has a lance?
Yeah, he
does
actually has a
not have
lance.
the
He does
flag.
not have the banner. So it's
Yeah.
all about going in and doing as much damage as possible in like a glorious charge.
He's got basic warriors. He's not worried about his fight value.
All I can say is thank God Henry's not here to rub that in our face.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I it's not the way I would choose to do it either, but for the purpose of the list, which is clearly focused on 3 mounted heroes with +1 to wound that do, you know, that it makes sense for that list, especially because who cares about your fight value?
You know, in the discussion of the population of Easterling armies in the tournament, I think one thing interesting to note is there's only 1 in the top 10, and that one was piloted by Matt, who also regularly tournament winning player. So so if we even consider that an outlier, it's almost none of them really made the top 10 in that way.
So I will say that a lot of the Easterling legions were being played by people I know who are either new to Easterlings or newer to the game or both.
Okay.
So that had something to do with it as well.
I will say this also, by the way, I had what, 3 major victories, 1 minor victory against Assault on Lothlorien, and 1 0-0 tie against Assault on Lothlorien.
So no actual losses, basically.
Well, yeah, but the ones that I struggled against
Or assault.
were Assault on Lothlorien.
That's the only other interesting thing. I mean, outside of that, the most interesting thing was the half troll list winning, which I'm so excited about. I love half trolls and Far Harad. Everyone knows that one.
But did it play Assault on Lothlorien? I don't know.
You know, I would have to go look through the record of what they played against.
Yeah, I don't think I have the record of the armies they played against. I do have all of the pairings, so like I can take a look, but it might not actually tell me what we need to know. So
yeah, it'd be tough to say because you'd have to memorize which names had the assault.
Yeah,
which I can look up.
Yeah, I see just out of memory. I see an elf list. I see Goblin Town. Do you remember what Avery brought? Actually, this one
it was not Assault on Lothlorien. It was a Dogaldor. No, it was Azog's Legion.
Avery had
Azog's Legion.
Yeah,
he played against that. Fiefdoms was another one. That's all I'm really seeing here.
5.
And then Corsairs, because that was the final game, right? He beat the Corsair list on Reconnoiter, which was shocking. It was actually shocking. That was the table 2 game. It was a million Corsair horde against the 20-something model half troll list, and just looking at it on paper, I was like, well, the Corsairs on recon, all they have to do is just walk off and not care. But he beat that list.
Just keep 20 crossbows back to shoot half trolls as they walk toward him.
Shoot down the camels, keep a couple guys in the back, and then walk half your army off, and that's the game, right? But obviously, it didn't go that way. He beat that list,
to be fair, and not anything against either player at all, but he was playing on the Bree board, which is notoriously known for having large buildings that allow.
But there were like 3 firing lanes that the crossbows could have kind of covered, right?
Yeah.
And then
I guess you could argue
the half trolls could only be so many places, and so it just on numbers alone, like he outnumbered him over 2 to 1. You would think on recon that would be a tough matchup, but he did a great job. He beat it. So
fair enough.
This is very good. All right. Well, then then your answer, Matt. Yeah, he did not play against Assault in Lothlorien, and he fought in the daylight.
There's the rub.
There you go.
Yeah, looks like he must have dodged it.
Yep.
And then the final game, table 1, was Assault on Lothlorien against Assault on Helm's Deep, and they bashed each other to a draw.
Irresistible force versus immovable object.
Yes.
Which, by the way, was the other one that the top, the top tape, the winning list dodged was Assault on Helm's Deep.
Actually, that Assault on Helm's Deep Legion struggled. Like, well, got some key lucky dice rolls to win, but really, like, that was
really
a hard
lucky.
That Assault list, the Lothlorien list, would have pummeled it had it not been for
Oh,
a couple.
It should have rolled over the Assault on Helm's Deep in that game, but those ballistas were like shockingly accurate at taking out literally everything they looked at. So in a way that you would not expect on paper. So
and even the players acknowledge it.
And by the way, I think that the list that won Nova, had it run into an Assault on Helm's Deep list, would not have fared well. I don't think.
Or an Assault on Lothlorien, either one.
Yeah.
Well, but that's tournaments sometimes. I mean, luck in matchups is very important to your final ranking sometimes.
Yeah. Luck in matchups and luck in scenarios are the two most important things.
And then Nova itself throws in a new random variable of the terrain itself, because you may end up getting a board that does not favor you, whereas like Ardacon, it's basically clone copies.
Yes, like when I had to play Black Riders unto the death with a single Lake Town outhouse on the board.
Quick, hide the leader in the outhouse.
I was like, and my leader is also my banner because I had Boromir, so great.
Boromir, in here.
Boromir suddenly got a tummy ache.
Duh. Boromir's coming up through the toilet. Will he give us luck?
Yeah.
Oh man. I guess the sparseness of that terrain is a whole nother story. But I mean, I guess that's it. I mean, as far as meta talk,
I have one more topic, by the way. And who here has been watching Rings of Power?
I have. Yeah, I watched it.
I have definitely.
All right. Who here A wants to get an Arendir figure, and B wants to know what's up with that Fight 6 warg?
Yes. And yes. I would just say Arendir figure. I want all of those figures.
Yeah.
Like they just all look great. I don't know. Okay, so for people who haven't watched it yet, spoilers, I'm going to give you a 5-second warning. Have you watched episode 3, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, so spoilers in 5, 4, 3.
And just to say,
2,
this is the last topic. So if you do not want spoilers, just turn it off.
Just turn it off.
Turn it off right now. Like the Numenorian, just like cinematography and costumes and everything. I'm like, I want that. I want to paint that. Right.
I actually, for me, every time they went over a landscape like Khazad-dûm from episode 2 or Numenor, I'm like seeing boards. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Or the Elven Tower within like the Southlands, and you're like, oh yeah, that would be cool, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like all these are going to be made. I can't confirm.
Or the Mordor being shaped too, like the World War I battlefield with like the trenches and the smoking. Parts of trees and stuff like that.
I'm hoping we actually see some battle scenes on like those environments, because that would be perfect. I imagine we will.
Right, we're very early into the first season still, so.
But I want the Arendir sculpt where he's leaping through the air with the chain. Oh, that's what I want.
Yeah, with the double-handed axe, above his head.
And I also want the Chihuahua on meth ward figure too, with the bulging eyes.
I mean, if you've ever wondered what a wild warg chieftain should look like, that's pretty much it right there. But even the orcs themselves will look amazing, right?
Yeah, they look
just unbelievable.
They look great. Yep.
I actually was really impressed by the orcs. In fact, I don't know if it's just me, but are they stronger now than normal? Because that fight scene with the woman and the kid, and I get it was fighting a woman and a kid, but at the same time, like it almost felt like super strength, like that.
Well, maybe they're more like hunter orcs than they are like Mordor orcs.
I think that's right. They're probably more hunter. Although I do have to say, the woman and the kid managed to cut its head off, so I'm not sure we give them greater than fight 3.
Yeah.
But,
true. They did have some unfair powder of unknown origin, though.
Yeah. But the wild, the warg just tearing through the elves was fun to watch. Oh, you know what else was fun to watch was apparently the leader of the orcs, the guy who comes up and like offers the water and then slits the throat of the elf afterwards.
What a jerk.
That's Nori from The Hobbit.
That's
Also-
He's
cool. I had no idea.
everywhere.
Yeah, and
He's,
he
he's
also
had so many roles.
he also plays not jeez, it's not Sharku. Who's the guy that gets stepped on by Treebeard?
Oh, Grishnak.
Yeah, he played Grishnak too.
Yeah, I mean, he played every third role in the franchise. Let's be real.
Yeah. It's good
Very-
to have him
yeah.
back.
That's awesome. I actually thought that was a really cool character design where he had the first age elven helmet, but it was like multiple helmets stapled together.
Yep.
Like that was really, really cool.
And
I've actually been very happy about how remarkably similar aesthetically the show looks to the Peter Jackson original films.
Yep.
It's very like you'd almost say it's from the same world.
Even though it's unofficial because through licensing they're not allowed to actually be in the same world, like you can see very much that there could be a continuity there, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Did you guys catch Evan and I both noticed this, but when they're doing Numenor, they have this one building, I think it's the palace or whatever, that has the kind of triangular shaped prow that stretches out over the Numenorian capital. That is, it is obviously the progenitor of Minas Tirith
Mhm.
with that, that projecting.
I actually did
thing
not notice that. That's something I'd have to
That
go
is
back
really
and
cool.
watch it.
Yeah, go back and look at that. I mean, it is very obviously like an architectural relic of
Mhm.
Minas Tirith.
I appreciated that their essentially their lighthouse kind of looked like the beacons of Gondor too. Like that's what it would eventually kind of become. It was
Mhm.
very, very, very neat. It's actually a great show. Yeah, everybody should go out and watch it. They've been doing a really great job with it so far. I've been enjoying it quite a bit, and it's visually stunning. So,
Yeah.
so hopefully that is a
You know,
a
honestly, that could
preview of
definitely-
models to be.
that could be an episode if you guys want, talking about Rings of Power and
Yeah.
theories, speculation, because I have some theories on the old man stranger. And
Oh,
also,
we all do.
Oh, don't we all? Don't we all?
And what's his name? Harland. Got
Halbrand.
Halbrand.
Halbrand, yeah.
I've got some
I think there
theories
is
on
more
him.
to him than
Oh, yeah.
meets the eye.
Right.
I definitely would be interested to see us exchange theories and then see what pans out in the end.
Yeah. Just one little tidbit about him. He's got his little icon of the eagle and the child that you see. I was listening to another podcast that kind of dissects this a bit. And I guess I should give credit where credit's due. And it's the Prancing Pony version of the Rings of Power recap. And they pointed out that is actually a callback to a pub where the Inklings used to meet, which was
Cool.
it was the eagle and the child, which they called the bird and the baby. And that's where that symbol comes from. It's a reference to that pub.
The bird and the baby is also a pretty great name for a list that has Gwahir and the mirror in it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's my bird and the baby list. So yeah, that's cool.
All right, guys.
Well, just since we got a little bit of time, just final thing. If anybody hasn't noticed, a lot of Lord of the Rings things have gone on for pre-order now. You've got all of your new battle forces, the new starter set that will not actually be in your hands until later in the year, but it has gone on pre-order. So you should try to get that in and a couple made orders. That is now available. And one thing that I think would be cool is in the Marvel Crisis Protocol, they often do this thing online that's called like the 3-box challenge, where it's you get your starter box and you can add any 3 boxes to it to make your army. I would love to see what people come up with if they could only buy 3 things on top of one of those battle forces, if they could make the most like competitive army out of it. I would love to see some ideas for that, and that might give some listeners also ideas on how they might be able to get started in the game. So that's one thing. If people have any ideas, please put them in the comments.
Sounds good. All right, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon.